Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're heading north, way north, to Alaska. Imagine that crisp air, the huge, rugged landscape. It's August 15th, 2025, Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson. And the place is just buzzing, electric with anticipation.
Yeah, a real focal point for the world that day.
Because the two men arriving were U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Huge figures on the world stage.
And the stakes,
Look at
immense. This was supposed to be it, maybe the make-or-break moment to finally end the terrible war in Ukraine. Everyone was watching.
Holding their breath, really. Hoping for some kind of breakthrough, some big peace announcement.
But, well, what we actually got was, let's call it classic diplomatic ambiguity.
That's a polite way to put it, yeah.
No grand peace deal emerged. Putin mentioned some kind of understanding, very vague.
Almost ethereal, wasn't it? Hard to grasp what he actually meant.
While Trump, ever the deal maker, quipped, "There's no deal until there's a deal," left us all kind of scratching our heads.
Pretty much. Standard political speak in some ways, but frustratingly unclear.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. How did we even get to that point? What really went down behind those closed doors in Alaska?
And maybe the biggest question.
Yeah.
What does this non-deal, this understanding actually mean for Ukraine, for Russia, for the U.S., for all of us?
Exactly. We're going to unpack this whole complex situation layer by layer, try to give you the essential insights you need.
Okay, so to really get why that summit even happened and why it mattered so much, we absolutely have to start with the war itself, the Russia-Ukraine war.
Right. It's crucial to remember this isn't some abstract concept.
Not at all. It's brutal. We're talking hundreds of thousands of lives lost, maybe more, millions forced from their homes. Huge parts of Eastern Europe just transformed into a battlefield.
It's a human tragedy on a scale Europe hasn't seen since, well, World War II.
Absolutely. And Ukraine's position geographically is so key. It's massive, roughly the size of Texas, sandwiched right between Russia and Europe.
The breadbasket of Europe, they call it, those fertile farmlands.
Exactly. And crucial Black Sea ports, too. Its history is, deeply tangled with Russia's.
Yeah.
For centuries.
Like two rivers flowing side by side, sometimes merging, sometimes diverging.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
But recently, Ukraine's been very clearly trying to chart its own course, looking west.
Towards the European Union, towards NATO, potentially.
Right. And NATO, remember, is the military alliance originally formed to counter the Soviet Union.
Oh.
So Putin sees that as a direct threat.
So that gets to the core of the tension, doesn't it? Putin's perspective.
Yeah. From his viewpoint, Ukraine isn't just another independent country making its own choices. He talks about it like a lost sibling, historically Russian, lots of Russian speakers there.
And critically a buffer zone, a shield against Western influence getting too close.
Exactly. That's the narrative. His actions, though, invading a sovereign nation, they paint a very different picture than, brotherly concern.
So the full-scale invasion kicked off February 24th, 2022. Russia seemed to expect a quick win, right?
Oh, definitely. The plan appeared to be a swift operation. Topple President Zelensky's government in Kyiv, install a friendly regime. Done.
But Zelenskyy, the former comedian turned wartime leader, he didn't fold. His famous line when offered evacuation.
I need ammunition, not a ride. Yeah. Iconic moment. Really set the tone for the resistance.
And Ukraine fought back fiercely.
Incredibly fiercely. And they got help. Substantial help, weapons, intelligence, financial aid from the West.
Which turned Russia's planned special military operation into this long, grinding, bloody conflict.
The largest land war in Europe since World War II, as you said. The casualty estimates are just horrifying. Some reports, like from Reuters, suggest over 500,000 combined casualties. The New York Times called it the deadliest conflict in Europe since the 1940s. It's almost unimaginable.
It really is. And that's a powerful summary of the grim reality. But maybe connect it back for us. Why does this war and a summit trying to address it actually impact, the average person listening right now?
That's a really important question because it absolutely does. The ripple effects are global. Think about the spike in food prices you saw at the supermarket.
Or energy costs going up.
Exactly. Direct consequences of the war disrupting supply chains for grain, for fertilizer, for oil and gas. Then there's the wider fear, the background anxiety about this escalating, maybe drawing in other powers.
The bigger conflict, yeah.
And fundamentally, it's become this major test case, hasn't it? Democracy versus autocracy. Does a powerful nation get to just redraw borders by force? Or does international law, does sovereignty actually mean something?
So it affects our wallets, our sense of security, and even the principles we think govern the world.
Precisely. It's not just over there. It impacts us all.
Okay, so with that really vital context laid out, let's zoom in on the two leaders who met in Alaska, because their personal history, well, it's complicated, to say the
It
least.
certainly is. It's been described as having raised eyebrows quite a few times over the years.
During Trump's first term, remember, he often praised Putin, called him a strong leader.
Yeah, even while investigations were ongoing into Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. election. That caused a lot of controversy.
And then fast forward to his 2024 campaign, he made that bold promise, end the Ukraine war in 24 hours.
Right. Boasting about his personal rapport with both Putin and Zelenskyy, saying he could just get them in a room and sort it out.
His actual approach seems kind of dual track, doesn't it? Some tough talk, threats of severe economic sanctions against Russia.
But also flattery, and even delaying some deadlines for Moscow, which critics immediately jumped on.
Yeah, critics call it appeasement, arguing it just encourages Putin.
While his supporters would frame it differently, they'd say it's smart negotiation, maybe pragmatic, using both the carrot and the stick, trying direct diplomacy.
And Putin's strategy through all this.
Putin's playing the long game. He always does. He's weathered enormous Western sanctions, partly by pivoting
To
east.
China, to India, finding new markets, new partners.
Exactly. Which has helped keep Russia's economy afloat and its war machine funded, despite the pressure. So his trip to Alaska, his first to the U.S. in a decade, it signaled maybe a willingness to talk, but definitely on his own terms.
Isn't a sign of weakness, you're saying? More a calculated move?
I think so. A chance to engage, see what's possible, maybe fracture Western unity a bit.
And the choice of Alaska. Why there?
Well, symbolism, partly. It's the closest U.S. state to Russia. You know that old line about seeing Russia from Alaska? It evokes that proximity.
Right. And shared interests, too, maybe.
Oil, definitely. Both are major energy players, lots of oil and gas interests. Alaska provides that kind of neutral yet relevant backdrop, geographically and economically.
So leading up to the actual meeting on August 15th, the atmosphere was tense.
Oh, yeah. Thick with speculation. Trump announced the summit on August 9th, stressing the focus on Ukraine. He even made that threat to walk off the table.
Adding a bit of drama.
Standard Trump playbook, perhaps? Meanwhile, the Kremlin put out statements from Putin expressing hope for, quote, pragmatic relations. Cautious language.
But behind the scenes, there were whispers, weren't there, about possible deals being floated.
There were rumors of back-channel talks. One report, notably from the Polish outlet Onet, gained some traction.
What does it suggest?
It talked about a proposal, supposedly from Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff. The idea was, allegedly, a ceasefire freezing the current battle lines for a very long time, 49 to 99 years.
Wow. That's basically freezing the conflict indefinitely.
Exactly. And alongside that, lifting sanctions on Russia, letting their energy exports flow again.
Now that's unconfirmed, right? Important to stress that.
Absolutely crucial. Unconfirmed by any official sources. But just the idea being reported, even as a whisper, was significant. It hinted at a potential willingness in some circles to consider what Ukraine would undoubtedly see as a raw deal.
Because it would legitimize Russia's land grab.
Precisely. It would effectively abandon Ukraine's claim to sovereignty over nearly a fifth of its territory, a non-starter for Kyiv and most European allies.
And you can imagine how that fueled public speculation.
Oh, completely. Online, you saw all sorts of reactions. Jokes about Operation Taco, Trump's Alaskan ceasefire offer.
Seriously, taco.
Yep. And plenty of posts suggesting Putin was being played again or that Trump was selling out Ukraine. Lots of cynicism and skepticism from all sides.
A reminder to stick to verified news in situations like that.
Always.
So, okay, all that build-up, speculation, tension, then the actual meeting, Friday, August 15th. What do we know about what happened inside the room?
Well, they met for about 2.5 hours.
Long enough for a decent movie, as we said.
Right, but apparently not long enough for peace in our time, and
What?
crucially, no joint press conference afterwards.
Which is usually where you announce the big agreements, right?
Right, so instead we got brief, separate remarks from each leader, which of course allows them both to spin it their way.
So who spoke first?
Putin did. He thanked Trump for the friendly tone, which is interesting in itself, and then he made that claim about reaching an understanding on Ukraine.
The key vague word.
The key vague word. He also warned Europe not to, quote, torpedo the nascent progress, whatever that meant.
Yeah.
And he expressed hope for restoring U.S.-Russia ties. He was classic Putin projecting reasonableness, putting the onus on others, committing to nothing concrete.
Keeps his options open. And Trump, what did he say?
Trump called the meeting extremely productive, but then immediately tempered it. He said many points were agreed to, but we didn't get there.
Didn't get where?
Exactly. He mentioned unresolved issues, one particularly notable one, but gave zero specifics. Total mystery what that was.
Okay, so productive but didn't get there. What else?
He said he planned to brief President Zelenskyy and European leaders soon. And he ended on a relatively friendly note, too, thanking Putin and notably not ruling out a follow-up meeting. Maybe even in Moscow, he hinted.
Moscow. Wow, okay.
So the bottom line, confirmed by, CNN, Reuters, AP, everyone, no deal was announced. Putin got some flattering words from Trump, perhaps boosted his image back home, but offered no real concessions we can see.
And the online reaction reflected that lack of substance.
Yeah, you saw those posts again, people saying Trump got played, suggesting it was all optics, no real movement.
So if there's no deal, what does that actually mean? What are the immediate consequences on the ground?
The biggest, starkest consequence is that the war grinds on. Nothing changed militarily. Russia still holds about 18% of Ukraine, Crimea, parts of the Donbas, other areas.
And for President Zelenskyy, any ceasefire that leaves Russian troops there is unacceptable.
Absolutely non-negotiable for him. He's been crystal clear. Any real resolution has to respect Ukraine's 1991 borders, its full sovereignty, an understanding that freezes Russian gains. That's not peace for Ukraine. That's just solidifying the occupation. It risks becoming what you mentioned earlier, a frozen conflict.
Explain that term again, a frozen conflict. What does that look like?
It means the active fighting might stop, or mostly stop. But there's no peace treaty, no resolution of the underlying issues. The battle lines become de facto borders, often heavily militarized. Think of places like Transnistria in Moldova or Abkhazia and South Ossetia in Georgia.
Situations that have festered for decades.
Exactly. It leaves the occupied territory in limbo, hinders the country's development and integration, and always carries the risk of reigniting. For Ukraine, it would mean living under a constant Russian threat, unable to fully rebuild or join alliances like the EU or NATO freely.
A really grim prospect. So this no-deal outcome, how does it play out for the leaders themselves, for Trump?
Well, for Trump, domestically, he can spin it as progress. He can tell American voters, many of whom are tired of the cost of supporting Ukraine, over $175 billion in U.S. aid since 2022?
A staggering amount.
He can say, look, I sat down with Putin, I'm talking, I'm trying to fix this. It plays to his base that wants less foreign entanglement.
But the criticism continues.
Oh, absolutely. Critics will keep hammering the appeasement angle, saying these talks without concrete Russian withdrawal just legitimize Putin and weaken the Western stance.
And for Putin, what's the upside for him in this non-deal?
It's a pretty clear PR win, actually. He gets to look like a statesman, willing to engage with the U.S. president after being somewhat isolated. It potentially stalls momentum for more sanctions, maybe creates divisions among Ukraine's allies.
And that understanding he mentioned.
It's strategically brilliant in its vagueness. It likely refers to maybe some general nods about Russia's security concerns, things they always bring up. But without the details, it means nothing concrete. He can claim a diplomatic success without giving anything up. Strategic ambiguity at its finest.
How did Europe react? They were in the room after all.
With a lot of nervousness.
Yeah.
Leaders like Germany's Chancellor Scholz, France's President Macron, they worry about being sidelined. A direct U.S.-Russia deal brokered over their heads is their nightmare scenario. It could undermine European security architecture.
And Zelensky's reaction, being excluded.
Consistent and firm. He's basically said, any deals made about Ukraine, without Ukraine at the table, are irrelevant. They won't accept being carved up or having their future decided by others. His position is understandably hardline on that.
Makes sense. And broadening out again the global picture. Energy markets. Food security.
Still precarious. Energy markets remain volatile because so much depends on Russian oil and gas exports, which also fund the war. Any hint of sanctions easing, even the unconfirmed rumors before the summit, can cause price swings that affect everyone's bills.
And food. Ukraine's grain.
Still absolutely critical. Blockades or disruptions to those Black Sea ports have devastating impacts, especially in Africa and Asia, leading to food shortages, even famine in some areas. This no deal means that instability continues.
And we have to remember the human side, too, the reactions we saw.
Yeah, The Guardian calling it a PR victory for Putin without stopping the killing. Al Jazeera pointing out Trump's missed deadlines on ending the war.
And those voices like Sean Penner, the former fighter, calling it a betrayal. That really hits home, the human cost.
It does. And alongside that, those reports of protesters in Alaska holding signs, urging support for Ukraine. It grounds the whole thing back in the lives affected.
It's worth looking back, isn't it? This kind of diplomatic dance, ending in ambiguity or frustration. We've seen variations before. Are there historical parallels that help us understand this?
There definitely are, though comparisons are always imperfect. The one that often comes up in these situations, maybe unfairly sometimes, is the 1938 Munich Agreement.
Where European powers tried to appease Hitler over Czechoslovakia.
Right. Ceded territory, hoping to avoid war, but it failed spectacularly. It's become shorthand for the dangers of rewarding aggression.
A cautionary tale.
A huge one. More recently, and maybe more relevantly, you have the Minsk agreements from 2014 and 2015.
Those were meant to stop the fighting in Donbass.
Exactly. Brokered by France and Germany. But they ultimately collapsed, riddled with violations, never fully implemented. They show how hard it is to enforce peace deals when one or both sides lack the political will or act in bad faith.
Now, people sometimes compare Trump's style to Reagan's diplomacy with Gorbachev. Is that a fair comparison?
It gets brought up, yeah, that Reagan-Gorbachev dialogue did help end the Cold War. But the context and the personalities are vastly different.
How so?
Gorbachev was an internal reformer, looking to change the Soviet system. He and Reagan found some common ground, particularly on nuclear arms reduction. Putin, well, he's not Gorbachev. His background is KGB. His worldview seems much more zero-sum. Concessions are weakness. His goal is restoring Russian power, not reforming it.
So different leaders, different goals.
Completely. And we've seen other U.S.-Russia summits in recent memory, like Helsinki in 2018 between Trump and Putin, often heavy on controversy, light on actual substance. Remember Trump siding with Putin over his own intelligence agencies?
I do. Caused a huge storm back home.
Right. So this pattern of high-stakes talks that don't lead to major breakthroughs, it's not entirely new in the U.S.-Russia relationship. The Alaska summit kind of fits that mold, unfortunately.
So looking ahead then, what happens next? Trump mentioned another meeting, maybe even Moscow. He said he'd call Zelenskyy.
Those are the next potential diplomatic steps, yeah.
Yeah.
A call to Zelenskyy to explain this understanding. Maybe feelers put out about another summit.
But on the ground, the war isn't waiting for phone calls.
Not at all. Ukraine continues its military operations. Reports of advances in places like Kursk show they're still fighting, still resilient, still trying to push Russian forces back. Diplomacy might be happening, but the fighting hasn't stopped.
So the big question remains, can some new framework emerge from this? Or is it just more stalemate?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Will this understanding somehow miraculously evolve into something concrete that respects Ukraine's sovereignty? Or was Alaska just a pause, a way to test the waters before the next phase, whatever that might be? It could easily just prolong the stalemate.
We've covered a lot of ground here, trying to get behind the headlines of the Alaska summit. We've looked at the war, the leaders, the history, the implications.
Right, to peel back those layers, yeah.
And the main takeaway, it seems, for now at least, is that while nothing solid was agreed upon, the fact they talked at all means communication isn't completely dead. Those channels are still open, however strained they might be.
That's probably the most optimistic spin you can put on it right now. Dialogue is usually better than no dialogue.
We really hope this deep dive has helped you make sense of a complex situation. We encourage you, as always, stay informed, look at various sources, and really think through the facts as you form your own opinions.
Absolutely. And maybe we can leave you with a final thought to mull over. What does a word like understanding truly mean in diplomacy when actual lives and the future of a nation are hanging in the balance?
And what responsibility do powerful countries have when their discussions or even their lack of clear agreements have such profound consequences for millions of people far away?
Heavy questions, but important ones to keep asking.